Hello, welcome, welcome back. It's World Breastfeeding Week. How cool is that? So, I have been wanting to do a video for about a year. Almost. He's almost 15 months, and we finally figured out breastfeeding at 4 months. Over 4 months. We'll see how long I can hold my arm up like this. We're currently on the couch. And, yeah. Anyways, we had quite a roller coaster getting breastfeeding going. And it's hard and it had its ups and downs, but you should do it anyways because it's worth it. So let's see, where do we start? So my son was born in May, and we were in the hospital, and of course the lactation consultants that come by are like, oh yeah, everything's great. Oh, you have great anatomy. Kept telling me I had great anatomy. And go back over here. Whoa. Sorry. um Anyways, so they kept telling me all these great things. Well, they we get home, I don't know, 3 days later, and I mean, it hurts. You expect it to hurt, right? There's a certain amount of tolerance you have to build up. Well, about 2 weeks in, he stopped gaining weight. He was losing weight, and he was nursing for like 2 hours at a time. Would not come off the boob. And I'm like, something's wrong. What the heck's going on? And I ended up hiring a local lactation consultant, and she came over, and it took about 4 or 5 visits with her to get it all figured out. So here's everything that was wrong. First of all, he had neck tension, so he preferred one side over the other because laying on the other way was not comfortable for him. So we had that. We ended up having to see an infant chiropractor, and she did amazing work. If you don't know about body work in infants, you really, really, really need to take your kid to a chiropractor. Trust me. Because he screamed the entire way home from the hospital. He screamed every time we put him in the car seat, anytime he was on his back. We go to the chiropractor for the first time, and he falls asleep in the car on the way home because she released the tension in his neck. So it was worth it. Totally worth it. We ended up needing craniosacral therapy too, but that's a different story. He had a recessed jaw. He had a high palate, a pretty bad lip tie, a less bad tongue tie, or actually a pretty minimal tongue tie. I have large nipples. So all of that combined led to problems. So a bad latch. Yeah. Bad latch equaled vasospasms. If you don't know what vasospasms are, if you've ever heard of people whose hands turn white and they get Raynaud syndrome because they lose circulation in the tips of their fingers, that's what happens to your nipple. And that went undiagnosed until about 3.5, almost 4 months. Well, probably 3 months. So, as I was saying, vasospasm is the devil. It seriously feels like lightning bolts and stabbing pains going from your nipples to your rib cage, if not beyond. It is highly uncomfortable, and all of the just put breast milk on it and let it air dry doesn't apply to vasospasm. Vasospasm, you need to keep them warm and dry. So it's pretty miserable. And anyways, I'll tell you what all we did. So with the recessed jaw, we did massages. We had to kind of massage his jaw forward. We did body work through the craniosacral therapist and through the infant chiropractor. We did. He had a tongue tie and a lip tie. We had that lasered off at the pediatric dentist. You coming back? No, baby. Don't play with it. Okay, so body work. We got his weight gain going again. He ended up being a total chunkamunka after a little while. Let's see. By the way, if you have any difficulties, you should definitely see an IBCLC, an internationally board certified lactation consultant. It's seriously, if you're having any sort of difficulties, just do it, because it is what should be natural isn't natural for some reason. Like, it just doesn't fall into place the way you think it should. And obviously, I am not a professional. I'm just sharing my experience. So yeah, so the IBCLC comes out, Meredith, local. She, does an evaluation. She weighs him. She does a weighted feed, and she's like, okay, well, his jaw's recessed. He does, and then I found the lip tie, and my midwife was actually pretty upset because the hospital should have checked. Like, that's something the hospital should have been like, hey, by the way. So we had that lasered. While they were in there, they said there's a minor tongue tie. We can either skip it and try later, or we can just do it all at once. I was like, let's just do it all at once. You're already in his mouth. We don't need to make a second appearance of pain. So he had all that lasered. We did all the exercises of like keeping the top from readhering. We did the tongue ones. The tongue ones we were actually pretty bad about because he hated it. Let's see. So the jaw recessed helped, getting that massaged out helped, releasing the tension in his neck and spine helped. But I was still in like serious pain. So lactation consultant, she's watching me feed him one day, and I am like chomping on my finger, like a bit. And I'm like leaving teeth marks in my finger. She's like, does it hurt that bad? And I said, yes. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah. I was like, this is horrible. I was like, I know I've got to build up tolerance. She's like, no, it shouldn't hurt this bad. Like, I think this is like the 3-month mark. And so, sorry, we got smoke and my allergies are kicking my behind. So 3 months in, she figures this out, because when he comes off my nipple, it's white. There's no blood flow in it. Oh, and also, he was lipsticking my nipple. So the tip of my nipple was going flat and kind of like the tip of a lipstick at an angle. And then, yeah, he did that on one side, but he didn't do it on the other. He still does it on the one side, but it's not as bad. Yeah, so lipstick nipples was one of the indicators. Flattened nipples is an indicator of a bad latch. So at 3 months, I went to the doctor because she said, okay, well, you can take vitamin B6 and magnesium. And I took those, and it didn't work for me. Which, if you know me, I like natural routes. Of course, I went with that first. Well, it didn't work. I was in so much pain, I went to the doctor. I do believe Western medicine has its place. Well, I go to the doctor. I see a man that's never treated vasospasm before. And I say, this is what's recommended for treatment of vasospasm. And it was nifedipine, 30 milligrams, extended release, once a day. And he gave me nifedipine, 10 milligrams, 3 times a day. Regular release. They were little gel caps. It kept me going. It made pain tolerable. It made the vasospasm stop during the usage, but I used it for like a month. I should have been able to use it for 10 days and be done with it had it been the extended release. At the end of the month, I started kind of tapering off, and then I stopped. And when I stopped, I had the most horrific pain I've ever had in my life. So bad that I went to urgent care because I was in tears. It was so bad. It was like somebody was nailing nails into my boob and into my rib. And it was like the worst thing ever. And I was like, I can't do it. So I go to urgent care, and she's like, go back on the nifedipine. It's probably the vasospasm. So I go back on the nifedipine, and I'm like, okay, we're good. I go back to the doctor. Actually, I called them because it was, all this is during COVID last year. And I call them up and I say, I need the 30 milligram extended release. I was like, that's what I went in for. That's what I didn't get. I said, this stuff isn't working. I should have been able to get off this stuff by now. So please fix this. So they send in the extended release. I take it for 2 weeks. And I think I weaned off of it like every other day. I just tapered off because I didn't want to cold turkey it again. And I was fine ever since then. So vasospasm can be fixed. It's temporary. All of these things are temporary. you can get through it. So I believe that by the time we got through everything, it was over 4 months. So it was 4 months of horrible, horrible pain, and 4 months that I would gladly do all over again. So when I say breastfeeding's hard in the title of this thing, do it anyways. Believe me when I say, other than mastitis, I had every single complication I could have had. I had clogs. I had vasospasm, which was miserable. He had his issues. I had my issues. It was a rough road, but we did it anyways. And now he's almost 15 months. He'll be 15 months next week. And we have been... So I'm 32 weeks pregnant now. I dried up right around 11 weeks, 12 weeks. So right around the time he turned 1, he's been dry nursing. And that's fine, because I wanted to go till at least 2 years old anyways. That's technically the World Health Organization suggestion. Obviously, Americans don't do that. They're all about formula and supplementing with cow's milk, which makes no sense to me. But we're still going. And, I mean, hell... We're going right now. He's had a rough day. This is actually the first time he's ever been under the weather that didn't involve teeth. And so he's been kind of needy today. He's usually asleep in an hour, but he's just not feeling well. He's had tummy issues. So, and in a year, he's never had a cold. He's never had an ear infection. He's never had anything. This is literally 2 days ago. We've had food intolerances that cause him diaper rashes, but we can usually pinpoint those. And so other than that, it's all been, he's been healthy. So whatever's going on with him right now, he's not feeling good. He's getting all the cuddles and all the dry nursing he needs. But I wanted to share that, yes, it seems like it's going to go on forever. Yes, it sucks at first, but it does get easier, and it makes, once it gets to the point where it's worth doing it, I mean, it's always worth doing it. That came out wrong. When it gets to the point where it doesn't hurt and it actually like falls into place, it's totally worth it. You know, it's just, the growth, the lack of illness, his health in general, his height. He's 99th percentile on height. He's 99th percentile on weight until a couple months ago. I think he's 96th percentile now because he's mobile. And he's 99th percentile on the size of this dome. I mean, he's already in 2T and he's 14 months. Started him in 2T back when he hit 1 year. That was kind of the 1 year thing, because I got tired of fighting with onesies that were too small or clothes that didn't go over his diapers or whatever. So, yeah. It's all about figuring out what's off. If you feel off, get somebody to help you tell you what's off. There's groups, and there's support groups on Facebook. There are IBCLCs. There's other moms that have been through some of this stuff. I mean, it can be fought through. You don't have to supplement with formula. We never supplemented with formula. What I did at one point was, when I was in so much pain, I pumped and gave him paste feeding bottles. So we used the number 1 nipple and on a bottle, and we put the bottle this way instead of like just pouring it down his throat. We made him work for it by going like this. So there are options. And then once that, I would do that 1 or 2 times a day just to give myself a break. More issues. Right side is overactive letdown, and also double the output of left. So that's another issue. And then once upon a time, I used to have left pierced, and so that is trauma to that side. So that caused its issues of its own self. And then with the right side being an overactive letdown and an overachiever, it was such an overachiever that I could put a haka underneath it without actually suctioning the haka, and it would just drip 1 to 3 ounces. Just drip. And I'd catch it and save it and put it in the fridge. So, overactive letdown, on top of everything else, I was drowning the poor kid. So I had to start reclining and putting him over the top so that gravity would pull the milk into me instead of pouring it down his throat. So there's another issue we had. So believe me when I say, like, other than mastitis, ow, he's got teeth and he's asleep. Other than I hit pretty much every complication that could possibly be gotten, and the only one I dodged was mastitis, and that's because I had the lactation consultant on text message dial, and I was able to ask her, how do I avoid this? So if you ever have a clog, you need to dangle feed. You can massage with like a toothbrush or a personal toy or a massager of some sort. And you can put heat on it, then massage. But dangle feeding, you can put them on the table, you can put kid on the floor, whatever, on the bed, and then lean over them so that you're dangling into their mouth, and you line their chin up with the clog. So there was one point where I ended up putting him, I lined his chin up. I was in the driver's seat of the car. We went to the lake, and I had a clog, and I put him over my shoulder in the car. So he was kind of like he was upside down, sitting on the shoulder of my car seat, and eating upside down. I didn't dangle because we were in the car, but I needed him to try to get it out. So we started working on it there, and we were able to get it out, I think, the next feeding when I got home. So, chin has to line up because that's where all the power in the suction comes from, is the chin. So upside down, it doesn't matter. And it can be, that's how we avoided it. I think I had at least 4 clogs. I had a bleb. It basically looks like a whitehead. I had a surgical steel syringe tip, and I ended up poking it with that, and I was able to squeeze it out. So blebs are no fun. I had holes in my nipples from other blebs, or clogs, causing damage. And with the bad latch, that was no fun. So I'm sure there's other stuff I'm forgetting because this was happening a year ago and 10 months ago and even, 14 months ago when he was first born. I've been meaning to do this video for a while, but why not do it during World Breastfeeding Week, right? So, the rewards are worth it. Whether or not you have the stick-to-itiveness to stick through it. Want milk? So yeah, if you have the stick-to-itiveness and you're willing to fight through it to, do what needs to be done, it can be done. It's just a matter of not letting other people tell you, no, you can't. It's a matter of telling the hospital lactation consultants to just pound sand. I've heard so many horror stories about moms being told, oh, you just don't make enough milk. Oh, you need to supplement because you're only making colostrum. Well, that's kind of how that works for the first few days. That's what's supposed to happen. So why are we rushing the process? It's just the way things are done here in America is just super frustrating and disappointing because they're not doing anybody a service. It's all a disservice to the baby. Because the most natural thing is breast milk. That's what it's designed for. It's for babies to grow and survive and thrive. And it is constantly changing and constantly evolving for the baby's needs. So to sit there and say, oh yeah, you need to start supplementing with formula because it doesn't make enough calories, that's bunk. Or what else have I heard? They are always hungry when you do breast milk because it only lasts 7 minutes in their stomach before they process it and they need more. Well, if you saw how fatty my milk was on an Instagram post I posted last year, I think it was 5 ounces and more than a whole ounce was just cream on top. So that was bunk too. There's a lot of bad information out there, which is why you should see an IBCLC. But anyways, I hope this inspires you to push through or realize that it can be done or realize that maybe it sucked, but it didn't suck as much as mine did. Maybe it's something simple like that. Like it could have been worse for you. So anyways, that's my story, my choppy story. with a toddler that I accidentally woke up. I forgot something. So 32 weeks pregnant. Baby number 2 is due soon. We are currently dry nursing, which was a little painful when I went back to sensitivity when I dried up. But we're still going. And I plan on tandem. So I'm going to keep going with both of them when baby number 2 is born, because tandem nursing is a thing. Tandem breastfeeding during pregnancy is a thing. Some people have aversion. I'm more dedicated than dealing with aversion, so I just went through it. For me, I think my only aversion was just the discomfort, but it was nothing compared to vasospasms, so I was kind of okay with it. And yeah, so I'm hoping to go to 2 years. If he wants to go beyond that, then that's fine too, but I want them both to go to 2 years, and since I'm 40, I'm only having 2. Unless my husband convinces me to have a third, we'll see. He keeps making jokes about if we want a girl, we have to have a third one, so we'll see. So, anyways, tandem breastfeeding is a thing. There's groups for that too. There's support out there for all of it. So, again, thank you for spending your time with me. Have a good one.